Hello and welcome to Roll Credits, episode 4 of the Roll Credits podcast, the podcast where we discuss movies, games, TV, just everything that tickles our fancy. My name is Sean and his name is Mark. Mark, how are you getting on?
You know, I'm still alive, which is, I think, the main thing.
That's always a plus.
Yeah.
Did you get anything?
Away.
Did you get up to much since we last spoke?
Yeah. You know, I haven't seen as many films as I would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really kind of still ashamed that I haven't seen Oppenheimer.
That's fair.
But
still not.
You know.
Still haven't seen it.
No.
I think your next best bet is to wait until there's like one of those IMAX days in Cineworld. And
well, this is the thing. I do want to see it on the big screen, even though I've heard mixed things about whether you really need to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
But I really want to. I've heard it's the way to see it. All right, you know.
I think
you were saying even just for the score. You know.
Incredible stuff. Yes, but welcome back to another wonderful episode. On today's episode, we have a very fun ranking for you. So we're going to do a small bit of news section, and just a bit of a rundown of things we've seen in the interim. But our baby for this week is our giant Star Wars ranking.
Yeah, this is going to be. It was actually tougher. We did the Turtles last time.
Yeah.
Which was only 7 movies. This is 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this a lot tougher than I thought I would, actually. In my head, I thought when we were talking about it, I would already have it mostly there.
Yeah.
When I sat down, I was like,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You said it was more difficult for you to rank. I thought it was more easy for me to rank. So I think this time we're definitely going to have an interesting clash of positions.
Which this will be the first time we ever really...
Yes.
Aside from a couple of... like in our Turtles ranking, it was literally just 2 movies switched.
Yeah.
This... I think will be quite different.
So this will be fun. Okay, well, before we do all that, let's crack into our little quick thoughts items, our little news items, and we can run through those before we dive into our Star Wars ranking. First up on our quick thoughts, Blue Beetle, Mark. I went to see Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I didn't.
You haven't seen Blue Beetle.
No.
I have got to say I was pleasantly surprised with this, and I already was looking forward to it anyway. The trailers kind of show that it was taking a lot of, the standard superhero origin story tropes, and just kind of like, playing by the numbers. But I gotta tell you, the actual film itself is really, I would put it as like the strongest superhero film of the year, on par with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow.
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you thought that much of it. That's
yeah.
interesting.
Okay. Sorry. This is just beneath Spider-Verse, obviously. Because I also remembered that came out this year. But no, it's really, really good. Easily one of the best DC films in like a long time. And I think it works as well because it feels smaller scale, but that works for it. It's not trying to do any crazy like world-ending stuff or multiverse stuff or anything like that. And I think it's the cast. Everyone cast in this film, whether it's Zolo himself as Jaime Reyes, his entire family are wonderful. It's just a really like I was laughing a lot in this film, and not through like easy laughs or like jokey bits or whatever. Just purely the interaction between the families, and also the Blue Beetle-ness of it all was done very well. The effects are fun, the action scenes are fun, and they do really delve into the whole, they're in the comics there was a Blue Beetle in the 1950s, Ted Cord, and then this version of Blue Beetle is a much more modern version of the character made in the 2000s, but it does a really good job of like tying it all together.
Did you read the Blue Beetle comics?
I've read a couple of issues. I haven't read it fully.
See, that's the thing.
I'm more of a Marvel guy. Yeah,
with the character, Justice League. It was Ted Cord. I've never read a single Jaime.
Yeah, have you seen any of the Young Justice?
No.
He's in that quite a bit.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's very good. But he's in that quite a bit, and I highly recommend it. No, but really, honestly, real surprise of a film. Real fun action beats. Great character moments, and like heartfelt stuff. I'm trying not to spoil it for you. No, but I really look. I know you weren't too looking forward to it by the trailers, but I would highly recommend at some point. Probably when it gets on digital or whatever. But Blue Beetle, have to say, hands down, it's a solid. I think it's an 8 out of 10
Wow,
at the very least, or 4 out of
4
5.
stars.
4 out of 5, 4 stars. Yeah, there you go. Them's be me thoughts.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And a lot more than I was anyway.
And now I saw Blue Beetle, but you, Mark, you saw a different film.
Yeah.
Involving talking animals.
Yeah. So again, so embarrassed that I went to see this over Oppenheimer. But there was a group of us, and it was just one of those sort of movies we wanted to go. We had a few points beforehand, and it just seemed like the best bet. And honestly, it's really, really funny. Maybe it is lowered expectations a little bit because like the reviews weren't great, and it's a talking animals film.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I laughed heartily several times.
Anytime I saw the trailers, I really enjoyed it. I really liked the look of the scene where they all eat mushrooms. And there's like an animated bit and a puppets bit and all that kind of stuff. That looks very fun.
It's really all like, okay, it's very juvenile. I mean, it depends on your kind of like tolerance for repeated bodily function humor, which gets, it gets old after a while, but it's never like.
But you're going into that film knowing
exactly
what is,
and you've got cute dogs. I think dog lovers are really going to like it as well. So yeah, I would say don't go by Rotten Tomatoes on this one, and more about Rotten Tomatoes in a while.
Yes,
but I was very pleasantly surprised by this. I mean, I wouldn't give it 4 stars, but it would be like a solid 3.
Yes,
definitely. If you want to go and see a good comedy, like there was a great crowd where we saw it, which really helps as well.
That always helps for a good comedy.
Because it was on the €4 cinema day.
Yes.
So the cinema was packed. Everyone was chuckling away, and just it was great crack.
I will 100% be checking that out at some point, based on your recommendation. Next up, one of the biggest stories in the world of movies and movie reviewing, the Rotten Tomatoes debacle, or the Rotten Tomatoes gate, or the Rotten Tomatoes fiasco.
Yeah, I mean, they all apply.
Yeah. So, Mark, do you want to tell us what is that?
So, Rotten Tomatoes has always been a kind of a controversial review aggregator. Mm-hmm. It's definitely the most popular there is in terms of people checking and, the general public and stuff. But film, like online film presences, let's say, be it critics, influencers, journalists, have always kind of like, well, not all of them, but there's a kind of a stigma around it, I think.
I feel like when I was younger, it used to be this like small side thing where it was like, oh, also it has this in Rotten Tomatoes. Whereas nowadays it's a lot more like, maybe it's just online, but it seems to be a lot of people go by it a lot more or swear by it.
Oh, they do, yeah. And studios have started to like promote it in their TV spots and stuff instead of like pull quotes, which they still use, but you'll see like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And they even use the audience ratings as well, which I always find very funny because I don't know if
it doesn't really that could be but anyway, so some people, there's always been this thing I've heard ever since I've started like reviewing movies online and stuff, with people accusing critics of being paid off by the studios.
Yes, yeah.
And
it's like a meme at this point.
Yeah. And it's new. I've always thought it was nonsense.
Yeah.
Studios will sometimes, and I have experienced this myself, in terms of being offered like certain freebies, or maybe offered to fly it out to a big premiere or something. Yeah. And the expectation then would be that you would maybe give it a better review.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be like, if you didn't, I don't think it's going to like really impact them.
Yes.
But it's just, they're trying to butter people up basically. Mm-hmm. But recently it came to light in a Vulture piece that, now it should be said as well, this is a very low, it's not like one of the major studios like Marvel or Warner Brothers. It's I can't remember the name of the studio, but it was for a particular film called Ophelia, released in 2018.
Okay, I think I remember that. Yeah,
with Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
So apparently, it wasn't even the studio; it was the PR company.
Wow.
Found a certain amount of critics and paid them €50. $50.
50 quid for a good review, like, oh my god.
To give a more positive review than maybe they would have.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also just like...
And again, sorry, just let me specify. These were... The piece doesn't name, obviously, the critics that it was, or it doesn't even really say how it knows this. I assume it must have been like someone reached out to them to tell them about it. Probably one of the critics that took the money.
Yeah.
But... yeah, it's probably a very small thing. It could only be a handful, but if it is this one instance, there probably is another.
Yeah.
It's basically opened up Rotten Tomatoes to a lot of scrutiny, basically.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because it was a joke for so long. They're like, oh, you're paying to get a good review, or it's often focused at the Disney MCU stuff. You're like, oh, the Disney whatevers are paying for MCU reviews, but yeah, it's wild to think that it is actually happening. And I guess it's like I know that PR companies in general are the stuff that they do. Like if you're listening to the radio one morning and you hear, oh, some study suggests that X, Y, and Z makes something happen, and in a PR company, all that will have happened is someone was like, oh, let's pay someone to do a study to get these results, and that can be a news story. Like I know there is a huge shady element of PR, but you would think of reviews that like, because it's such a, if you're doing reviews and someone pays you to write it more favorably, you can't like hide that as something else. You can't hide that behind like, oh, well, we said it was advertising or we said it somewhere else. It's just a pure, here's money, say nice things. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is in a bit of hot water, and I guess we're gonna have some boiled tomatoes pretty soon.
There you nice. Go. Oh, yeah. I do want to say this though.
Yes.
As well. It is basically a hit piece.
Okay.
Now I'm not saying this didn't happen or anything.
No, of course, yeah.
It's very clear. Like the writer of this article does not make any effort to hide their disdain for Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, so they just hate it anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
It seemed like they were just looking for this kind of excuse, because there is a lot of problems with Rotten Tomatoes.
No, of course.
The way they decide on their percentages and stuff and blah 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 blah. But
I also sometimes I see like I'll see little if I'm on a page for film, and I see the little blurb from a review. And it'll be either like neutral to like vaguely negative, and yet it'll be listed as fresh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but
see, this is another thing as well that I think the article makes that's another thing.
Yeah.
This piece makes no attempt to really clarify this again, because I think it's really just designed. I mean, they basically call it like the death of criticism.
Yeah.
So they've already chosen their side there.
Yeah, yeah.
But critics decide themselves when they submit their review whether it's going to be rotten or fresh or positive, fresh or rotten. Do you know what I mean? They decide what splat. It's going to be the splat. That's interesting. Thing. So a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that the critic submits a review and then the Rotten Tomatoes themselves add the thing. So
could someone review a film and give it a 3 out of 5, but submit it as a rotten? Yeah, that's so interesting.
Because I would definitely usually I would say 3 or up is fresh.
Yeah, that's what I think. 2 below.
But I mean, star ratings, people pay too much attention to them in general. To be honest,
this is the tough thing, because realistically, any kind of number rating for a subjective piece of art, whether you're talking movies or albums or whatever, it doesn't make any sense. Like, every single person listening to something is going to have a wildly different take on it. They might like more, they might dislike more. Like, it's really hard to actually, distill an experience of whether you're watching a movie or listening to an album or whatever into like numbers or stars or whatever. Now, obviously, it makes it easier to consume it, but yeah, it's wild.
But I mean, just don't pay. You look at the rate and say, okay, well, if that's 5 stars, this guy must have really liked it. Yeah. Or even if it's 4, this guy must have really liked it.
Yeah.
But don't read the review.
Yeah.
Because there will be elements there, and you'll point out certain things that he didn't like.
So that's all we have to say on Rotten Tomatoes currently, and who knows? Maybe it's the complete and utter downfall. I don't think it is. I think there's always going to be review aggregators. Metacritic's another one. They're always going to be there. But it would be interesting to see where this goes from here. Next up, we have got to talk about, before we dive into our big Star Wars ranking, we've got to talk about the current Star Wars show that is airing in air quotes, or streaming on Disney Plus, and that is Ahsoka.
Yeah, Ahsoka. I mean, it is a Mandalorian spin-off. I think that's fairly accurate.
It is. It's also Star Wars Rebels Season 5.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Completely. That's just
we thought it was going to be elements of Rebels, but it's Rebels.
It's literally just Rebels. It's all the Rebels characters.
Yeah. Have you been enjoying it?
I have, but I have issues.
Same.
I love Dave Filoni. I think he's definitely Lucas 2.0. And I know that Disney are trying to edge him towards, being a full director. But he came from an animation background. So he's phenomenal when it comes to like planning animated stuff, writing animated stuff. Great. He got some experience by directing some episodes of The Mandalorian, and they were good. I think he still is a bit weak when it comes to directing live action people. Visually, I think he's fine, but in terms of actually directing and getting performances, it seems like he's just happy for actors to say his lines without actually. One of the things that I would point out is that we're 4 episodes in now, and there's a character called Hu Yang. It's a droid voiced by David Tennant, and he was a big character in the Clone Wars, and he's been there for ages. He gives the best performances.
He's the highlight of the show.
He gives the best performances. And do you know why that is? Because it's a voice performance. And I genuinely think Dave Filoni still only knows how to direct voice performances versus live action. It's like he doesn't know how to say to... Like, I feel your one who plays Sabine is very good. I just feel it's a little bit lifeless. I feel Ahsoka... I get that she's like stoic and everything. Again, it's just slightly lifeless.
There's certain exchanges that... I think the word I would use is stilted performances.
Stilted wooden, yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed it. Not all the time. It depends. Certain lines of dialogue as well, which will be difficult to deliver at the best of times.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, do you know who was really standing out?
Ray Stevenson.
No. I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera.
Yes, she's good. Yeah.
No, I mean standing out. Sorry, in a negative way. I love Ray Stevenson.
Oh, as in she's...
I'm just noticing her dialogue she's not getting the best dialogue for one.
Okay, dialogue-wise, fair.
Yeah. And it might just be because I loved her so much in the Rebels.
Yeah.
That she's just not really... I'm just not really convinced by her.
See, this thing, I thought she was okay, but I do get that she's very... Like, and again, I get this from all of them. The animated characters have much more life. And I do feel that, like, it almost feels like when Dave Filoni's directing this, he's kind of like... they just get one take and they say the lines, and he's like, cool, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I feel like
although that was George Lucas's thing as well.
But this is the thing. I'm kind of like, if you go up to the actors,
he's like George Lucas too, in the positive and negative sense.
It's go up to the actors, talk to them, be like, I want you to say this way, or like emphasize this a little bit more. There just feels like a weird disconnect there. Ray Stevenson, by the way, I think is great.
Yeah,
I think he doesn't have this because he the way he plays this kind of like dark. It's not quite a Sith. It's kind of dark Jedi and dark Padawan. Works really well. No, look, I am enjoying it, and I do enjoy the lore that he's working with. They're obviously going for a whole other galaxy thing. That's something I thought Star Wars should have done for a long time. I have I don't know if I've told you this, Mark, but I have a plan for an entire separate Star Wars trilogy myself that involves another galaxy, and one of the big parts of it is by the end of it, someone's telling a young kid a fairy tale. And they start off with a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah. So it all comes back. Yeah. You need someone to be telling someone the Skywalker saga in a different galaxy for it to come back around as a big giant fairy tale set in space. So I'm enjoying that they're going to different galaxies. Yeah, I think that's cool. I just really wish. Yeah, look, I do think Dave Filoni. I think it's good that he's getting a show to direct and write. And I do hope he takes the criticism on board, because I do think he is very, very good. I think he just needs to probably work a bit more and learn a bit more as a director. Maybe shadow more directors and see how they work with actors.
Yeah. I've been a Star Wars fan since I can remember. And I love lightsabers and Jedi and the Force. But I would say coming off Andor especially.
Oh, man. Andor is leagues above.
This is what I'm saying. Andor took a very different route, and it paid off so well.
Yeah,
and like it was natural.
Yeah,
my God, the dialogue, the performances, the script, and so much better. So when this comes along, it's like, okay, it's good. I mean, I'm enjoying it as a Star Wars fan because it's lightsaber battles, but it's like, if you compare it to the show that just came before, it's just not holding up.
Another thing as well, the first season of Mandalorian I think is incredible, and the season 2 and season 3 aren't as good, to put it lightly. I still enjoy them, still watch them. They're not as good.
I thought season 2 was pretty good. I thought season 3 was borderline not good.
See, this thing, and I also what annoys me is that they're bringing a lot more of the Clone Wars lore into that, and I don't mind that as much. And I don't mind there being live action stuff from animation. I just would like the live action shows to also be their own thing. I would like Mandalorian to, have a little bit of ins and outs. Like the entirety of season 3 shouldn't have been basically, a full Bo-Katan thing. Like that's almost a show in and of itself. Like Bo-Katan, the Mandalorians, basically all the Mandalorian storyline from Clone Wars and Rebels was carried on in this, and I think that should be a small part. But I don't think it should be a huge thing. It almost feels a little bit of and some people have said this online. There's a little element of it's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni getting their action figures and going, and then this happens, and then this happens, totally. And then this happens. And whereas you can see in Andor the difference of there's all these characters we never knew before, and you massively care about them just because of how they performed and the writing. Like it's
as well. I would say about the Mandalorian is it's not even just the storylines they're choosing to cover and how they're integrating them into the wider universe. Tonally, if you go back to season 1
it's
and watch
wildly different.
The first few episodes and then watch anything from season 3, it's like a different show.
Yeah.
Like from a tonal standpoint, it's completely different.
Yeah.
I just don't know why they didn't stick with that. You know, you can still integrate all these things and like into the lore and cover the Darksaber and stuff, but just keep it the tone that you started out with,
Yeah, definitely.
And I just don't know why. Do you think that might have been pressure from Lucasfilm to make it more Star Warsy?
I wonder if it's like, part of me they obviously want to push Filoni a lot. And I wonder, is it him getting a little bit more influence? And I've always been a big fan of everything he's done in animation is incredible. I wonder, are they maybe pushing him a bit too quickly? I think he maybe should have a few more years of shadowing or like directing an episode here and there, and like it's almost like they're pushing him too much, and that's impacting all these other shows. And Jon Favreau kind of doesn't mind because he's
along for it, and that's that.
And also, to be fair, he's Disney's golden boy. He's Iron Man. He did Lion King. And I hate the live action Lion King so much. Getting back to Ahsoka, I'm enjoying it. I'm going to watch all of it. I hope that Filoni learns more as he goes on. Not that he's Jesus, he's obviously far more skilled than me at doing all this, and not to say that he isn't. But I hope that there's a development of whether it's directing or working with actors or the dialogue and all that kind of stuff. But I love the lore. I love the world building. I love all that kind of stuff. I'm fully on board with that. So
it sounds like I'm kind of down on it. I am really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens next week with Anakin Skywalker and all that.
Yes.
So we'll see.
And that's all we have to say on Ahsoka. I think we've covered everything we wanted to. So that brings us to the big bang boom main section of this week's podcast, and that is Mark and Sean's ultimate Star Wars film ranking.
Very Vader. Nice.
So, Mark, explain to people what we are doing.
Okay, so we're ranking all 11 big screen Star Wars features.
Yeah.
We didn't rewatch all of these.
No.
With the Turtles, I think we
didn't rewatch them recently, but we have a fairly decent.
Well, I've seen the original trilogy so many times I can say it backwards. So
exactly.
There's no need to watch that.
Yeah.
I did a rewatch of the prequels like a couple of years ago, so I didn't go near them. The only ones I rewatched for this was The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and I also watched Rogue One recently, so I rewatched Solo.
I did a giant rewatch of all 11 films, I think about a year and a bit ago. So for me, that's still quite fresh. Like that's I still have pretty much everything in my head about them. I am looking forward to this. I do think that our rankings are going to be very different.
For this one, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna disagree, and I'm looking forward to the disagreements that we're gonna have.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We probably won't spend too much time just because we've so many to get through. It's very easy to like fall in and just dissect each one.
Yeah.
So we'll try to keep it as brief as we can. But
we'll try to dedicate a few minutes to each.
Yeah.
Right, without further ado, let's get into it. So we'll start off at number 11.
Give it to me.
My number 11 is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
I had a feeling it might be.
Yeah. Mark, I would call this a wet fart of a film.
Oh.
I can't... So I... Look, I went into this film with quite a bit of goodwill, okay? Force Awakens came out, Last Jedi came out, all that hullabaloo we'll get into, but it was like, oh look, J.J. Abrams is coming back. And he's going to close out the trilogy. Now, I've had this opinion about J.J. Abrams for a while, long before this film came out, in that he is phenomenal for starting a series or rebooting a series. His Star Trek reboot I thought it was incredible. Force Awakens, for what it is very, very good, very enjoyable film, brings everything back. Great. Also his work on Lost. But a big issue with him is that he's very good for introducing mysteries or introducing things and not having any plan for where they're going to go or what's going to happen to them. So when I heard he was coming back, I was like, it could be good. But also I saw Star Trek Into Darkness and some other stuff that he's done. I'm like, he's not the greatest with coming back after he's done something.
Does he also write the scripts? It co-writes them.
Yeah, he co-writes them as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So look, I saw Rise of Skywalker and I gotta be honest, I was just annoyed throughout the entire thing. It starts off and we're introduced to Rey again. She's training and we finally, and also this is one of the things I hate about the sequel trilogy, is that your main your trio, which is Rey, Finn, and Poe, right? Which should be the same vibe as Han, Luke, and Leia. It should be the same vibe as Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. And even they didn't do it as well as the original three.
No.
They only know each other and like are working together as a trio at the start of the third film in the trilogy. It annoys me so much. I'm so sorry. It
That didn't matter. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. And then the entire film is like a fetch questy kind of thing. Palpatine comes back, and we have the meme of like somehow Palpatine returned. It's just I was just kind of like eh. And then there's a whole thing with Chewie's dead, but he's obviously not dead. Yeah. And then he comes back, and then they have the big thing at the end, and Kylo Ren, Ben Skywalker gets his redemption. I didn't mind that.
I thought that scene with Han Solo was really well done.
That was great. That one single scene was great.
Like, and I know some people have issues with him coming back in that way, but it was just so well. See, again, you've got Harrison Ford.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. Look, I that scene was great, but also there's so much of everything else around it that didn't like
that fight. See, I only really watched this recently. Sorry, I'll get when I'm talking about where it is.
Yes,
I'm just saying I did notice certain things that I was like, actually, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
in a vacuum, you know.
That's fair. I mean? That's fair. Then towards the end, obviously, we have the I am all of the Jedi. I think they pussyfooted around that. I'm like, if she's gonna be all the Jedi, have a lot appear as Force ghosts behind her. Have do more than just a few little voices. And also, you're closing out a 9-film saga. Maybe tie into the all of the other film. Another thing that annoys me with the sequel trilogies, they ignore the prequels. And I get the prequels aren't entirely loved as much, but there's a lot of stuff in the prequels that should have been maybe involved more.
Do they ignore like major lore things or just
just that there's nothing really referenced from them much. Anyway, look, I think it annoys me because of the potential that was there. It annoys me. It annoys me so much. Because it really could have been a really cool thing, and it wasn't.
It should have been a lot fucking better, for sure.
Yeah. So, Mark, what's your episode? What's your number 11?
So, my number 11, and what I would consider to be the worst Star Wars movie of all time, is Attack of the Clowns.
Attack of the Clowns?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Not Attack of the Clowns.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't hate any of them.
Okay.
I have to say. I mean, there's elements in all of these I can appreciate.
I will agree with you. As much as I dislike Rise of Skywalker, I don't outright hate it.
The prequel
I love
trilogy,
Babu Frick.
You love what?
I love Babu Frick.
Yeah, Babu Frick.
Great.
Um, so yeah, look, I know the prequel trilogy has kind of been reevaluated recently.
Yeah.
People were like, especially because the sequel trilogy, or at least the last film, was so poorly received that people start kind of looking back and going, man, I mean, we gave the prequel shit. Look how much better they were.
The prequel trilogy also massively benefits from all the Clone Wars and all the stuff that was made years later, and hugely adds to it.
The thing is, they're really not very good movies.
No, like objectively, they're not, Mark. I agree with you on that
from
point.
a basic standpoint, filmmaking standpoint, they're not. The overarching story is great.
Yeah.
Between the three, it's really well done.
It would have been very cool if George Lucas was, here's my overall plot idea, and
get someone that actually knew how
someone
to
else directed and wrote the
yeah. And look, it's Star Wars. I am not like, I can forgive a bit of cheesy dialogue.
Of course, yeah. I think cheese and corniness is inherent. You need a bit of that in Star Wars, you know.
But when you mix it with just, I'm gonna flat out say it, awful acting. Yeah. Now, none of these people are bad actors.
No,
of course. Like you were saying earlier, it was like Lucas was just like, roll in, cut. Sorry, George, I think I actually looked at the camera there. Yeah, you're fine.
It's like I've never heard of the concept of a second take.
Oh, like I really noticed this, especially when I went to see these originally when they came out. I was like,
yes,
these are awful films.
A fun fact about this as well is that we're definitely going to have a bias here in that I definitely have a nostalgia bias because I saw them when I was 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, and I saw them when 13. I was a little bit older, like 13. So anyway, Attack of the Clones, I had to rank it last. There's so many scenes in this that I just like. The cringe factor is turned up to 11. Yeah. And we all know what they are. I mean, there's no need to get into them. And even aside from that, there's like so... Okay, I'm trying to think of things I did like about it.
Mm-hmm. Darth Sidious? No, not Sidious. Grievous? Dooku. Dooku? You like Dooku? Okay. I will suggest when we get to where it is in my ranking, I will talk about what I liked.
Okay, do you know what I kind of liked? And although I think a lot of people don't like, I like Yoda's lightsaber fight with Dooku.
Oh, yeah.
When he was flying around. People take the piss out of it. I actually thought that was kind of cool.
Mark, I can tell you that is one of my formative cinema memories from my childhood. And I did not experience the same level of excitement in a film until years later when the Avengers films came out. And the moment that Yoda cracks out his lightsaber, the entire cinema erupted. Like, oh my god. And then he was fighting, and it was a great moment. And I genuinely, I didn't get something like that again until I saw Avengers, and the Hulk stuff and the fights and all that kind of stuff at the end, where the entire crowd is like cheering. So look, I'll always give it to that film for that whole thing. So yes, that is your number 11. On to our number 10. Mark, my number 10 is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Interesting.
So I remember seeing this in the cinema, and I think I was probably too young to really... Like, I had seen the originals on VHS, because they were at my grandparents' house. So I had a vague recollection, but I was probably too young to... I was honestly probably peak Jar Jar enjoying age. So I do remember... But also, my memories of it are being just kind of confused pretty much until it gets to like the third act and there's the big lightsaber fight. And then you have one of the greatest John Williams tracks that he has ever made.
If I agree. It's like the highlight of the movie.
One thing I'll say about the prequels, right? John Williams cracked out some of his best scores, best work in those films. Regardless of the actual films themselves. The Duel of the Fates, which is in the Phantom Menace when there's the giant Darth Maul fight. You have Across the Stars, which is the love theme between Anakin and Padme. It's
I'm not as familiar with that.
It's a real like epic, phenomenal love theme. And then you have obviously the track that plays when Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting in Episode 3. There's a lot of phenomenal like classic Star Wars.
It really enhances these scenes.
Honestly,
probably I wish they were over like better. I wish the movies were better to accommodate how good the score
honestly
was.
John Williams, and I'll say this for all of Star Wars, is I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, also the Star Wars music is good. It's like, no, John Williams is 50 to 60% of the reason those films are as loved as they are.
I would say, yeah.
Some of the most classic movie music you've ever heard in your life comes from these films. So Phantom Menace, look, you can say more about it obviously when you saw it at the time. It doesn't really hold up. Obi-Wan is not Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon Jinn is great. Liam Neeson is having a great time. He's a wonderful character. I think it works really well. Everything else is just it feels a bit higgledy-piggledy. Now the pod racing is fun, but it's a weird side quest. Darth Maul is great, but he's in it for 2 minutes, and he's just visually great. He has no character whatsoever. Anakin, the poor. I don't want to say the bad thing about Jake Lloyd because that poor man, child, everything has had an awful time from Star Wars fans.
This is the thing. Nobody comes out of these movies looking well.
Really
it's
don't.
Not, and it's terrible the way people focus on how he wasn't even. Honestly, rewatching it a couple of years ago, it's like he's not that bad.
He really isn't.
No one's good in this.
For a kid that age, he actually is perfectly fine as he is, and he does feel more natural as a child. You're like, I'm watching a kid. I'm not watching someone acting. I'm watching a kid who's in this universe. So yes, number 10 for me is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Mark, what about you?
My number 10 is also The Phantom Menace. We got one.
We've matched up on one. Yeah.
Again, I think it is slightly better than Attack of the Clones, largely due to John Williams. And that final lightsaber sequence is really good. And what else do I like? I'm trying to get the positives out of the way first.
The design of the yellow starship, the fighters that they do is quite cool.
I
like those fighters.
I like Liam Neeson.
Yeah,
he doesn't get he's got enough screen presence to get past the bad dialogue.
It's Ewan McGregor's first turn as young Obi-Wan.
Do
you not like him in that?
I liked him in. I think he's better in Attack of the Clones, and
he's better than as slightly.
Maybe
older
it's when
Obi-Wan.
they gave him the beard.
Yeah.
In this, his accent, everything, I didn't like him. No.
What did it? Oh,
it felt like he was trying to do a bit more an impression of Alec Guinness.
That's what it is. In the first one, maybe he's trying to do too much of an impression, but when he's older, he
just settles into it a bit more.
Yeah, it's more settled. That's what it is.
There's no need to get into Jar Jar Binks, is there? I don't think we need to bring him up.
Jar Jar.
I
want them to bring Jar Jar back as like an evil, master genius or something. I don't know. It's very funny.
I get he's like it's a kid. At the end of the day, Star Wars are children's movies. They wanted to put someone in here,
so
I don't mind a bit of an annoying kind of sidekick character. But Jesus,
here's the
to
thing.
Be so irritating.
Here's the thing, right? Lucas, obviously, a quirky, goofy sidekick character is part of the DNA of Star Wars. I accept that 100%. Quirky, weird characters are part of what it is. I think it's the.
You need to make them funny.
Exactly.
Like R2-D2 and C-3PO.
And also Yoda. I'm going to say Yoda as well. Because if you think about when Yoda was first introduced, he was just a goofy little green puppet man. If you think about what Yoda is on the page, right? Or as a description, without ever thinking of the performance and the puppet and the voice and everything, that could have been a Jar Jar.
Oh, could have, yeah.
If you had a puppet that looked stupid, if you had a voice that didn't suit it, if you had a whatever, that could have been the Jar Jar of that film. And in 50% of the Ewoks kind of were.
I mean, again, yeah. I think Simon Pegg fames, he said the Ewoks are shaft compared to Jar Jar
exactly.
Binks.
This is the thing.
But, again, like Yoda, like you said, when he's introduced, and again, we'll get to this when we're ranking The Empire Strikes Back, but he is kind of more goofy, kind of played for laughs. Yeah. But it very quickly switches.
Oh, it does, 100%.
And we get this incredible. I mean, Yoda's one of my favorite Star Wars characters.
He's incredible. You know? And I think Puppet Yoda is I don't mind CGI Yoda. I think Puppet Yoda is the best. Phantom Menace. Also, we did get Puppet Yoda in this, in the original version. Puppet Yoda and Puppet Yaddle.
Oh, yeah.
In the original one, they're puppets, and then they're CGI for episodes 2 and 3. And then in the redone version of episode 1, he's CGI because Lucas has to fucking go back and redo stuff. So yes, interesting that we're locked on our number 10 is episode 1. Mark, my number 9 is Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. Now, I think it's well established and well accepted that Episode 3 is the best, in air quotes, of the prequel trilogy. And I agree with that to some extent. I think it's Lucas, I guess, getting the hang of like his modern, at that time, Star Wars films, and he gets, obviously the story is incredibly dark. It gets as dark as he can, but also it's just such a. Now it also does have I think the best scene of the prequels, which is when Palpatine and Anakin are at the opera, and he has the little dialogue scene about, have I ever told you
that was the really plague of Darth,
whatever his name is,
Darth
Plagueis.
Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis. Have I ever told you the tragedy of Darth Plagueis? It's honestly, it's very good. Then
but he can't help himself, can he?
Can't, and there's just the whole tragedy element. It just feels so, you're like, Anakin goes bad, cool. It feels like it happens on a feckin' dime, and you're like, bam, done. And then he kills the kids, and you're like, you killed younglings. It's just, again, I think the story is a very good tragedy. I just think his execution, so many other people could have executed it better, could have done a better script and better directed it. Now look, I know that apparently there's a whole thing about Lucas when he was doing these was like, would anyone like to direct these? Would anyone, like, friends, would you like to give me notes in the script? And apparently people were like, nope, because it was Star Wars.
Okay.
So yeah, it was I think it was a whole thing. But yeah, I look, it definitely has the more mature themes, and it has the Order 66, which is a wonderful plot element, and has been far better expanded upon in the animated series and Clone Wars and everything else, as a moment versus how it's depicted in the film. Yeah, just for the story of everything, I think it's definitely the best of the prequels. But again, just there's elements of just the way he executes things, it just doesn't work for me.
Lucas has no nuance, no love for nuance.
Yeah,
I'll cover it actually when I get to it more.
Do you want to tell us your episode 9? Your number 9.
My number 9 is
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I don't hate this as much as a lot of people do.
Yeah, you don't hate it as much as me.
No. It's definitely the worst of the new trilogy.
Yes.
It definitely, considering, as you said, it is wrapping up this massive saga, it really needed to be a lot better than it was.
I just think there needs to be more. So what annoys me as well is there was a whole thing. Colin Trevorrow was originally doing it, and he had a script called Duel of the Fates, which was his episode 9. And the entire thing leaked. Did you ever see any of it?
I read just some of the breakdowns. I never actually read the full thing.
No, obviously it's not perfect. There's lots of different stuff and everything, but like the finale takes place in Coruscant, and there's a whole element of bringing back, like, deserted stormtroopers are all come together, and there's a lot more, like, they bring in stuff with Mortis to do with like the Clone Wars and everything. It involves a lot more of the Star Wars lore than Rise of Skywalker did, and I really liked that as a thing. Also, Rey has a double-ended blue lightsaber, and I thought that was a very cool thing, as opposed to just, oh, I fixed Luke's lightsaber and that's mine now. Yeah. Also, I will say another thing about episode 9. I love her yellow lightsaber that she has at the very end, and we only see it for 5 seconds. I think that's such a cool look for her. I think it's a great thing. And it's made from her staff as well. I just get so annoyed. I think what annoys me about it so much is that there's so many elements of it that are actually really good ideas and kernels of ideas that they just didn't expand on.
It's a mishmash. It was very clear that this was an attempt at, like, course correction.
Yeah.
Even though they shouldn't have course corrected, because The Last Jedi is a far superior film. But again, we can get to that.
Yeah.
I really like that scene, as we were talking about earlier, with Kylo Ren and Han Solo. There's other stuff. I've noticed it rewatching it as well. It's like the performances are pretty good. I mean, again, they're working with not great dialogue, which is kind of Star Wars in general. But I think Daisy Ridley's great. I think Adam Driver's really good.
The two of them are just consistently great.
I like Oscar Isaac and John Boyega, but their characters were underserved, I would say, to
Oh yeah, definitely.
They tried to, but like you said earlier, I think this was a problem right from the very first one.
Yeah,
they just didn't really put enough thought. They wanted a new, like, trio.
Yeah.
and they only really focused and gave one of them enough to like.
I think
flesh them out.
when we hit the next few of them, I'm going to give you my thoughts on J.J. Abrams and the problem starting from episode 7, basically. So episode, oh my god, I keep doing this. Number 9 for you is episode 9.
Oh yeah,
Very good. There you go. So then we go on to number 8. Number 8 for me is Solo. I enjoy this film. I think it's a competently made film. It had a weird path because it was initially being directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And Disney didn't like what they were doing. And then they brought in Ron Howard, who was apparently just incredibly reliable. And he refilmed a lot of stuff and brought out the film that we see and that we have. As a film in the Star Wars universe, I think it's quite fun. It's quite decent. There's no bad elements of it. It's a well-made film. All the performances are great. It's just, my big issue is that it's when Disney acquired Star Wars initially, there was jokes about like, oh, we're gonna get a Origins of Boba Fett film, Origins of Han Solo film. Oh, we're gonna find out how he got his name Han Solo. All the jokes that you would make because they seemed very obvious things to do. They did the most obvious, every silly, like, cliche origin thing in this. They were like, huh, what's your name? Han, I guess Solo? Wink at the audience. And then, even the way the Millennium Falcon looks, they have a brand new version of the Millennium Falcon throughout the film. I'm like, oh, cool. Obviously, throughout the years, it got damaged in loads of different ways, and that's why it looks kind of rickety as it does in the more modern era. No, there was just one very specific event, one chase scene, where it gets all of the damage, all of the damage, and then it comes out of it looking exactly like it does. And it's like, okay, guys, right, fine, yeah. And then how he meets Chewie. I actually do quite like Chewie in this. I think him and Chewie are great. I think he's good as Han Solo as well. I think Alden Ehrenreich, I think is how you pronounce it. He's very good. And of course Donald Glover as Lando is great. It's all good stuff. It's just very by the numbers and cliche, and I would rate it higher. I think it is a better film than some of the films that are higher in my list, but just for I just don't see the point of it, and I enjoy it. I just don't really see the point of it. So what's your number 8?
So my number 8 is Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, that's fair.
I would say it's comfortably the best of the prequels.
Yeah.
Again, we've kind of already talked about what doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with any of the points you made, really. Yeah. But it's just, okay, maybe it's just finally getting to see how this thing played out.
Look, that's totally fair.
So it's this culmination. It's quite a bit darker.
Because also, like, I remember before those films ever came out, like, there was just, you'd be chatting about Star Wars with friends, and it was like, oh yeah, like Darth Vader, like, do you know how it happened? It was like, oh, they were like fighting a volcano. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So there was all this info that was just around,
heard about, which was never really even 100% confirmed.
And also, that was pre-internet, so that could have only come about by either it was maybe said in an interview in a magazine somewhere.
I don't even remember
just became,
how that.
It's really hard to figure out how that came out.
It was this almost kind of like, no one knew for sure, but it was like, do you know how? Because, like, obviously the first Star Wars and New Hope, they know each other. And, like, people are like, what's going on there?
Yeah,
and it just builds this really cool mystery.
So it was very cool to see the battle, the volcano battle that happened, you know.
But even, see, this is the thing. Although it is my favourite of the prequels, it's like, it just, again, it can't help himself.
Yeah.
I was watching it again. Last time I was watching it, I really noticed, like, how just against any kind of nuance Lucas is. Like, just to give the audience a bit of credit.
Yeah.
So, like, the dialogue when they're flying along on the lava pit and things, and Anakin's talking about how he's, like, talking about the Sith, and Obi-Wan goes, but Anakin, the Sith are evil. And he goes, but from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Yeah,
God, it's done that whiny
kind of voice. Are you actually saying this out loud? We already know that.
I know. And what's tough as well is you always just go back like, but it's a kid's thing, so it's only. It was like, yeah, but
could you not have had him said something
do there, have a better
like to give us the impression we already know that he does like he's been corrupted and he doesn't like it's. The dialogue is so on the nose that it's laughable.
This kind of stuff always brings me back to. Do you ever see Gareth Marenghi's Dark Place?
I actually never watched. I remember it on TV and I watched a couple episodes, but I never really.
There's a single clip from it where it's like an interview with this, you know, this author. This guy's playing an author, and he goes, I knew writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards."
That's great.
It's just railing, and it's so funny, but it's so applicable to this because it's like he's like subtext. Puh, what's that? I'm gonna tell them exactly what I think is happening, what they should know.
I mean,
it's so funny.
That is applicable, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like. But anyway, I'm supposed to be kind of giving my more positive take since it's a little bit higher in the rankings. Story plays out relatively well. There's some intense scenes. It's quite a bit darker.
Yeah.
I love, again, this is another example of Lucas just not being able to help himself, kind of ruining a scene. When Obi-Wan, when the fight is over on Mustafar.
Yes.
And the Emperor comes and like picks up Anakin's charge remains.
Do it. As he says.
And they see the mask coming down.
Yeah.
The music, it's really cool. And he kind of comes up in the thing. It's like,
oh my God.
We hear the
I know what you're talking about. Whoa.
Cut there, mate.
No.
Or even just have a little bit of dialogue.
But Mark.
Do not have him break free and scream, no, while he's doing this stupid Frankenstein walk. What is wrong with him? What is wrong with him?
And it's James Earl Jones doing it as well. So I was like,
surely someone had to be watching back and I go, George, just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Would it not be better to cut here?
But you see, here's where a lot of the issue comes, is that he was making those when he's like, it's George Lucas of Star Wars. He was surrounded by nothing but yes people. Nothing but yes people. And I really just like, clearly that's what it was. Because if you had anyone, and what I think a lot of people forgot was that the original Star Wars were not successful because of just him. He didn't direct any of them.
He directed
the first one. Sorry, yeah. But he didn't just fully and just write and direct like he did the prequels. The first one he directed, but that was, and it's well known that it was saved by A, the music, and B, more importantly, his wife, who apparently is the one who saved it in editing. If you go on a real deep dive about like that entire thing in the making and like what she managed to do in editing that film, apparently is the reason that it's as good as it is.
Well, that's news to me. I'll have to look.
Oh, genuinely, you should look it up. It's a huge element about like she apparently is the one who like cobbled together the cut that worked well, and then the music was obviously thrown on, the fucking iconic music, and that's why it worked as well as it did. Because apparently he did a screening for his director friends like before that, and they were like, "This is fucking I think it was like Brian De Palma, like
the original Star Wars,
Steven Spielberg, and all.
Yeah, I can totally understand.
He showed them a cut like without music, and before his wife edited it. Apparently, it was awful. Anyway, so that's a whole thing. So yes, your number. Eight is okay.
Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Mark, my number 7 is Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
So a lot higher than mine.
Yeah. Now, I will freely admit, this is definitely nostalgia focused, because I think this one is the one that I remember the fondest from my childhood when I saw it in the cinema. It's a formative cinema memory for me. I just remember getting really into it. And I remember as well when it opens and Obi-Wan and Anakin are like coming up the lift and Anakin's older, I remember just being like, oh wow, has it been like that many years since I saw the first one? Like in my head, I thought it was, because I just didn't cop. I obviously thought it was real time, and I was like, oh, it's obviously so long ago. And I think also a part of my brain at that point really appreciated the whodunit aspect of it, like this like it's a crime mystery. You're following clues and you're trying to find out whatever. Now, you watch it now and it's incredibly simplistic and doesn't make a lick of sense, because all it is one person wanted this person dead and they hired a person who hired another person who hired another person who hired another person who hired another person, and that's all it is.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just remembered. It starts off with the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And also, I love the chase through the city and that kind of like, it's the most, I guess, you've ever had Blade Runner aspect in Star Wars.
That I appreciate that.
I liked that, and then I love Dexter Jester. of course. That wonderful diner
Oh,
owner.
God.
He goes into
Yeah.
he goes into a diner.
It's a weird scene, isn't it? Your man was like, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. Oh, I recognize this very
goes into Eddie
specific
Rockets.
dart. He genuinely goes to Eddie Rockets, and the owner of Eddie Rockets knows the exact dart he wants. And he goes to Camino, the cloning planet. And again, I love like the design of Camino and the aliens and the clones. And you get the Jango Fett fight.
That was pretty cool. Nice rain, all that kind of
also,
atmosphere, yeah.
Slight sidebar. These Star Wars films, whatever about anything the rest of them, two things in terms of audio. Phenomenal score, the sound design. The sound design in these films is some of the greatest. Like, you in your head, you can think of the scream of the TIE fighters. You can think of the hum of the lightsabers. You can think of, in this specific example, the depth charges, the bombs. Do you remember this scene in episode 2?
I'm not sure.
So there's a scene where Jango Fett and Boba are in his ship, and I think Obi-Wan is kind of catching up to them, and he's chasing them in space, and he releases these bombs.
Oh, they're like delayed, and when he approaches, they go off. Yeah.
And they explode, and then everything goes quiet, and then there's just a giant bloom. And I just remember being like whatever age I was in the cinema when I saw it, and just being blown away by this audio effect. It's incredible. So yeah, you go through this entire thing. Honestly, I think I block out the Anakin Padme stuff because it's boring and also just doesn't make any sense. It is silly.
And just some of the worst character
so
exchanges.
Bad. It's so bad.
This is the backbone of your story.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a bit more effort into it.
Yeah, of course. And then we get to the final bit where they have the big battle in the arena with all the bug people and the monsters, and then the big cool fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku, and Anakin loses his hand, which is interesting. That Lucas is like, I'm gonna make it so that Luke's dad also lost his hand in the second film, and maybe that's where he got it from. Genetically, it was passed down that it had to happen to him. And then, of course, Yoda comes out, and as I've said earlier, one of the coolest experiences in a cinema. I'd never experienced a cinema like that, where everyone was cheering and going crazy because Yoda whips out a lightsaber. Episode 2 is a special place in my heart. I accept that objectively, not a good film. But there's so much of it that I love, and I think it's world building. I think it's story. I think it's just loads of different little bits that it hits me.
Well, that's all that matters.
There you go. So, what's your number 7, Mark?
My number 7 is Solo, a Star Wars story.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
This was your
my number 8, so it's only one above. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this more than I expected to. I just love Han Solo and Chewbacca. When I was a kid,
and I will say the two of them and their dynamic in this really well done.
And I think that if you get that,
yeah,
I'm gonna be more forgiving about some stuff that
maybe you
didn't get. I don't really have any major issues with it. It's just like you said, is it really necessary? Not really.
It feels like, especially the ending. The ending feels like it would have been a very cool double episode arc on Clone Wars. Like the stakes at the end, I'm kind of like, yeah. Now when they brought Maul in at the end because of where he was at the time, and he's played by the guy he's played by in episode 1, but he's voiced by Sam Witwer, who plays him in Clone Wars. I would not have minded some kind of exploration in a sequel with him because I love.
Well, I think they were.
They definitely were.
They weren't expecting it to do so badly
not at all
at the box office. So.
Yeah, so there we go. So that's where you are for number 7. Mark, my number 6 is Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens.
Oh, it's lower than I expected.
Yeah. And now I think these 6 are, none of them are bad to me. None of them have bad elements. These are all very good films. And I'm kind of struggling in ways to kind of rank them. Force Awakens. I saw it and I really liked it when I saw it at first. I love the character of Rey, love the character of Finn, love the character of Poe. I think they're all very good characters. And I'm a big proponent of, if you're going to do something in a franchise, create new stuff. Do new things. So they're all brand new characters, which I really, really enjoyed. I thought it worked well in the way they did it, where they, the Falcon was there, and it's a gorgeous chase scene at the start with the Falcon, with the New Order, the First Order, not the band New Order chasing them around. Great scene. This is easily like the best Han Solo performance, or one of the best Han Solo performances from
Hardison Ford.
Hardison. It works well. Where my issues with it lie in that it is very, very much, will we just do episode 4 again? Will we just do A New Hope again? I get why, right? Like, logistically, I get why. You're bringing back Star Wars after the prequels. You're trying to get everyone back on board. Would you not kind of just do this again? I'm like, grand, okay. And again, look, I love Kylo Ren. I love Hux. I think they're like, all the characters I think are really, really good and really well done, and they feel new. The concept of the First Order and Snoke annoys me so much, because it's just like, chronologically, you have your prequel series, your big, Old Republic era kind of whole different vibe to the original trilogy, which is like, oh, there's an empire, it's desolate, all that kind of stuff. And then it really just feels like you're setting up a brand new trilogy, and it's like you're just doing the original trilogy again. And I get that there's an element of that, which is fine, but I really wanted some kind of mix of something new. They did, like, Death Star, except it's a death planet and destroys the solar system instead of planets. There was no emotional weight to that at all, because we didn't see any of them apart from that one shot when they see the giant laser coming towards them, and then that's it. Yeah. It's done,
I think why that didn't bother me as much is because I totally expected it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just knew
that's fair.
They're relaunching this franchise.
Yeah,
they're playing it safe in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Now they took a few risks, obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of the overall story and the beats that they want to hit, they're like, we need Star Wars fans to come and just have something familiar.
Yeah. Also, I think ideally what I would have loved is if Rey, Finn, and Poe were together by the end of the first act. I think Poe should have been part of the trio. I think he should have just been with them. I really do think they should have been a trio from there. I also wouldn't have minded if maybe Luke could come in at the third act, just to have him be in there more. I enjoy the twist of Rey is the actual Force wielder Jedi person versus Poe, not versus Finn. However, I do think he was massively shortchanged in all the marketing was Finn, it's lightsaber, Finn, all that kind of stuff. And then he never got a chance for the rest of the trilogy to be a Jedi. I definitely he should have been, maybe at the end of the second one, like, oh, we should train him as well. And I think he should have been part of it as well. That's my.
I think they should never have teased it, because I think it.
That's fair.
I think it really works better when it's just one Jedi.
It does, but I really liked the idea of him, and I thought he's such a great actor, John Boyega, and I love the character Finn, and I do.
I mean, he's great. That's one thing. Finn is like in The Force Awakens is really, really.
He's great.
Yeah. And his character gets.
And he just gets kind of sidelined for the rest of the trilogy.
And as it goes on, they obviously were like, and I think he's a much better character than Poe. Poe Dameron is just a hotshot pilot. How many feckin' times?
There's also not really much to him apart from that.
Like I'm not. Oscar Isaac's a great actor, but like he's literally just given hotshot pilot, books the rules when he has to. Blah blah blah. It's boring. We've seen it a million times before.
It. So what's your number 6?
Rogue One.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which I do really like. That's what you like. These are all good movies.
Yes. Yeah.
/ very good / great.
Yeah.
I think Rogue One is kind of like. It definitely tried to inject a bit more grit. I mean, it takes the mythology, sort of the Jedi stuff, the Force, trying to give more of like a soldier perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
Which Andor took and really
perfected
it.
Basically
perfected it.
Yeah.
So, and I think Rogue One is a very entertaining film. I've read criticisms that like the main kind of crew are not well developed. I watched it again recently. I'm like, I don't really get that. I thought they were well developed.
I get it a little bit, but I don't think it's as much. I think Yeah. Like,
Okay, some of them are just kind of introduced and they're there.
Well,
But-
my only issue is that I think I would have liked maybe one or two more scenes of when they have the whole crew,
Of them
a bit more interaction.
Yeah.
Because you do feel it. But I think I know that's probably just a cut for runtime thing. Also, I know there was a lot of issues behind the scenes with this. That it was Gareth Edwards. Was it Gareth Edwards? And then it was Tony Gilroy? Or how was it? There was a director change.
It's a miracle this film got made at all.
And it's an even bigger miracle that it came out as well as it did.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you can see, especially in the last act, like it's a choppy.
You can see where stuff was maybe meant to happen that was recut or reshoots fixed or changed or whatever.
But I think again, like considering I think they pulled it together pretty well, considering all of the issues and stuff.
Also, it has one of my favorite droids of the entire series, which is Alan Tudyk as K2SO.
Oh yeah.
Great.
And also, I have to say, the balls on this movie, man.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
To kill literally your entire main crew of heroes.
Mm-hmm.
That's Star Wars has never done anything
like
that before.
And like logically, it's the only thing that makes sense in the story because I'm I
remember
this has its weight because everyone died getting it.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
I can't remember if it was Gareth Edwards or Tony Gilroy, but they basically went to Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah,
and they were like, "So we want to kill off blah 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 blah," and she apparently was like, "Kill them all."
Yeah,
it's like they're not in any of the other stories.
Yeah,
it really adds some weight. Yeah. Let's just, and I was like, I remember watching this and going, what the hell?
And then you get like possibly the best Darth Vader zine of the entire.
Oh, at the end, fantastic. Again, that seems like it might have been something that was added, but I don't mind.
I don't care. But also I'm like, because it ties in perfectly, obviously, the start of episode 4. But like that scene of Vader, and again, it's such a like, that's how you do Vader. Like he's a large clunky man, but like you. And also, I think what sells that scene so well is the horror of the people around him. Like
it was like something out of a horror movie.
They're terrified. And also, he's barreling through. He's killing. And it's just person to hand to hand. They're just barely getting through the tension. It's just such a fucking.
It's fantastic.
That's the scene that sold the terror of like original trilogy Vader, I guess, too.
Because everyone was so afraid, and I mean, you do get the impression that he's very imposing and stuff. But this is the first time we actually see why he's created this 100%. Massive fear around him.
Because it's like introducing a fucking. It's like introducing like a horror. It's like you've just dropped Jason or you've just dropped Freddy Krueger or someone into it, and it's almost like a boogeyman kind of thing. Yes. So next up we have my number 5, which is Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi.
The originals.
Yeah. The last of the originals. I gotta be honest, I have the least emotional connection, I think, to this one. Whenever I think of this film in my head, and again, I watched it like relatively recently, so I still have all the plot in there, but like, whenever I think of this film in my head, I just go, Jabba the Hutt rescue, fight with Palpatine, or Darth Sidious. And then the end. Pretty much everything else. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
I don't know what else goes on in there. I get that there's, you get your Ewok stuff, you got your bits and bobs, you got your second Death Star,
so he goes
you
back
got your moon of Endor.
To Yoda. That's another part.
Oh, I know. They're all Force ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which a little bit defeats it. I'm like, oh, so you can just have the chats with the two boys who died.
Yeah.
But no, look, I do enjoy the Vader and Luke stuff in this because you really do get the feeling that like Vader is properly, in his final moment of this, he becomes good and he kills the Emperor, but you do get the feeling that it's happening throughout whenever Luke interacts with him. But other than that, I think it's a decent ending to the trilogy. I think it's. Of all three of them, of all the 3 trilogies, I think this has the best trilogy ending. I think. I know you're going to say maybe Revenge of the Sith. Is like somewhere
from a story standpoint.
Yeah,
but no execution. This is.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Because Revenge of the Sith still has all those horrible things.
So yeah, and that's honestly, I don't really have much else to say about it. I'm like, that's Return of the Jedi.
Well, my number 5 is also Return of the Jedi.
Hey, there we go. We've linked up on a few.
My least favorite of the original trilogy.
Fair.
Used to be my favorite as a kid because it's the Ewoks and all of that stuff.
Thing. I think this is the first glimpse of Lucas's prequels tendencies coming out because, and really all
hang on.
this.
This is one thing I was. So he didn't. Who directed this? Irvin Kershner directed.
Yeah,
Empire.
it was a different director. Yeah,
So it was another one again.
Yeah,
but you never hear like I don't know who it was.
No, but also like this is obviously like script wise and story wise. I do think that this is the third Star Wars film, right, in this trilogy. At this point, Star Wars is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
You had the original, you had the second one, which is even bigger and better, and then you had this one. So at that when they're making this, obviously Lucas is being revered a bit more, right? Because he's the big figure. And a big reason the prequels have so many issues is because, in my opinion, no one said no to him. And he was revered as this god, and no one thought he could do any wrong. So I think you get a little bit of a hint in this of that. Not as much, because obviously it's a different director, there's another writer involved, but you do get the hint, and it's partially Ewoks and it's partially other bits and bobs, but yeah, I think
it's right. I think the opening act with Jabba the Hutt and all that is so great.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, wonderful. Love that.
Fantastic. As soon as they leave, like you're saying, it's kind of like.
But this thing, when I try to remember it, it all just
so they
just all jumbles.
Luke goes to Dagobah to Yoda, and the others go. I noticed this as well.
Yeah.
Like I've always kind of noticed, except when I was a kid,
Yeah.
because you don't notice these sort of things.
Of course, yeah.
But all of the actors give the most stilted performances in this one.
Of the 3 trilogies.
And I'm not sure if it was just them kind of like phoning it in because
I think they're tired of this one. Because I would presume, because also like that's one of the first giant blockbuster franchises. So they're getting the assault of like media coverage, interviews, and like fan focus and all that kind of stuff that not many people back then would have gotten, or you wouldn't be as used to as like nowadays. So it must have just been a lot, I think, So I wonder if they were just kind of like, look, we'll get this done, then we're done.
Maybe, I don't know. It came across, as the film progresses, then we've got the Ewoks stuff. I don't mind the Ewoks that much.
Yeah,
I don't think they lean too heavily into the silliness of it. I mean, obviously, if you start to think about how kind of little army of teddy bears defeating entire Imperial stormtroopers, that's is what it is.
Yeah.
Love. What really brings this up is the final battle with Vader and Luke. The music, all of that stuff, fantastic.
Yeah. So number 4 for me. Can you guess what it is?
Is it The Last Jedi?
It's The Last Jedi.
Same here. Hey! Sorry to jump ahead. But,
That's quite funny.
Yeah, we've lined up on a few more.
We have lined up on a few, I think, yeah. So, yes, number 4 for me, the Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I personally think it's the best of the sequel trilogy. I personally put it above Episode 7, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's okay if you don't.
No, it's like, there's not much in it.
Yeah. I love Rian Johnson. I love a lot of what he's done, and I'm in two minds about this. Right, I think as a film, it's phenomenally well made. I think if you came to this, if this was just a sci-fi film that you were shown and you got all the backstory necessary, and then you were showing this, you'd be like, that's incredible. It comes with a lot of baggage, and I do appreciate that he was basically like, here's where the characters are, and go. It's kind of that improv game of like, continue the story from what's been left off.
I love, like, the reason I love this film so much is probably the reason why a lot of Star Wars fans hate it.
Yeah.
I love all of the risks. I love all of the surprise directions they take these characters in.
This entire film does what I really have wanted the Star Wars films series to do for a while, is to really delve into the, like, why is the light and the dark side so binary? Why should it not be so binary? Like, look at the more yin and yang, and look at the, is the dark side necessary for the light? Is the light necessary for the dark? Like, it delves into all, and even on its subplot, where now I will say,
well, the whole Canto Bite Finn stuff, I could lose that.
I would have preferred if something better was done with Finn in terms of all that. I do appreciate what he's going for in that it's like, look at all these rich people. They don't care if they're selling weapons to the Resistance or to the First Order. it doesn't matter because to them it's all the same, and the end result is the same, in that the lower class people get, screwed over. Which is a very, like, it's a much more mature theme to take in a good versus evil space western. And I do appreciate that it's done as well, and also it ties into, like, Luke's training touches on it as well. Also, just shout out to where is it? Not Achill Island. No, what is it? Skellig. The Skelligs.
Yeah.
Skellig Islands of Ireland, looking incredibly good in this film.
With the little porgs /
I love the porgs.
Yeah, I like the porgs.
I love the porgs. Yeah, no, look, and also a lot of people hate Luke and his direction in this. I disagree with that massively. I think it's really well done. I think it makes perfect sense. If you're going to come back to this guy years later, now look, I get if you're following him maybe 5-10 years after the original films, yeah, then you get to see him be your cool superhero Luke. He's super successful, whatever. If you're coming back to him decades after, then yeah, if he's a hermit somewhere because of some big tragedy that happened, yeah, cool, 100%. I buy that. I think Mark Hamill is phenomenal in this.
Well, that's the thing. He gives such a great
in
performance.
This. He does it so well. And also, people have issue with the Kylo thing where, Luke would never do that.
Oh, of course, he totally would do it. I never got that. Like, and also, of course he would.
And I love that you get 3 versions of it. You get the version that Luke initially tells, you get the version that Kylo tells, and then you get the real version,
which is somewhere in between.
And I love it because Luke is obviously he's training this kid. He set up this Jedi temple. He set up this Jedi order. He's the last person to do it. It's so much rests on him. He has this vision, a quick vision of all the shit that, like, Snoke is telling young Ben Solo, all this kind of stuff. And all it is that he ignites the lightsaber. He's not like about to strike him. He's not minutes away. He ignites the lightsaber. And they specifically say this in the movie. They're like, he's like, it was a moment. I ignited the lightsaber. He saw a moment of weakness. As soon as I did it, I regretted it. But unfortunately, there's such a nuance there, and it's the exact opposite of Lucas in the prequels. It's such a specific nuance of, like, it was just this single moment where Ben. That was when Ben turned.
Yeah, and that was what pushed him over the edge.
It was just a little, and also the entirety we have with Luke and everything is that, like, and the Skywalker family in general. You're going to have moments where you're tipping over to either side, whether you're on either side. Like, if you're fully dark, you're going to tip over to the light. If you're fully light, you're going to tip over to the dark. That's the Skywalker fucking legacy, basically.
Yeah.
Look, I really appreciated what Rian did with this. The Finn stuff is probably the weakest element. The Finn and Rose. I love Rose as a character. There's no reason Rose needed to kiss Finn. There didn't need to be any romance stuff there. I also think that, at the end when Luke comes back and he's obviously force projecting, but he comes back and he fights against Kylo. I think that if they had made the simple change of it had actually been Luke, and he comes back and all the First Order robots fire on him, and he halts them all in midair in a giant dome, and he sends them back and it kills all the robots. And then the exact same scene happens where he fights Kylo, and then Kylo, slashes him and he disappears, just like Obi-Wan. I think a lot of people would have been far more on board only because it's like, oh, well, we got to see Luke do something cool and physical with the Force. And I think that a lot of the issue for those people boils down to, like, he was just sitting somewhere and just projecting. It's boring. Whatever. Yeah. I think there's a lot of... Now,
they should have had him. I didn't like that part.
I would have liked that. I would have liked if he flew in and did some cool Force shit, because I think Rian was definitely trying to, subvert stuff and go beyond. And I'm like, I get that. I understand it. I think we were very successful. But there's also a little bit of a Star Wars fan who wants the most basic, simple element of, like, I want to see Laser Sword Man do something cool. I want to see cool Force thing. Like, it's like a primal urge, but I do think there should be a mix of, like, I'm going to subvert shit, but I'm also going to give fans, like, a bit of fan stuff.
What happens with a lot of movies, and this specifically in the Star Wars saga, I think a lot of the criticism stems from fans from not playing out how they wanted to play out.
Yes, yeah.
But they're not actually looking at the quality of the movie itself, which you have to break down.
Oh,
just because something doesn't happen that you want to happen or expect to happen, you're going to be disappointed, but it's not like it shouldn't be a complete detriment to the
No,
film
not at all.
and the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't like seeing Luke die. Certainly not that way. I thought they could have done a few, like you were saying, like they could have done that a lot differently.
I do think if he was just there physically and had died
in battle,
in battle, and if he'd done a very cool and all his, you know when they all fire the lasers on him and none of them hits him.
I thought so amazing. Cool.
It was very cool. Cooler if he's actually there, and you have all the dust, and the dust fades away, and he just has this, like the way Kylo in Episode 7 stops a laser. If all that dust fades away, and you just have this dome of stopped lasers, and then he just flicks them back out. Now, again, I do think he should die because he's using an incredible amount of force. I do think all of the stuff that happened should have happened. I just think it could have been a little bit of coolly. Just to hit that caveman element of like, I want to see him do cool things.
Do you think they decided like immediately when they were like writing these movies, that they were going to kill off the original 3, or is it a gradual thing? Because I know Han Solo was kind of a given because Harrison Ford always wanted his character to die.
I will say it is also criminal that they never had at least one scene.
Oh no, that's a bigger regret.
Anyway, sorry, getting off track.
Yeah, we're doing exactly what I said.
Yes.
Fans do. It's like the movie they wanted to see.
We're both set on our number 4 being Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I think it's a great film.
Okay, so Mark, my number 3 is Rogue One.
Right. Yeah. Which was my 6.
6. Yeah, I feel like is your number. Can I guess what your number 3 is?
Yeah.
Is your number 3 Force Awakens?
Yes.
There we go. It's so funny. For the ones that we aren't the same, we've like swapped for different numbers. Rogue One is incredible. I love Rogue One. I think Andor is better. I love Andor. I think Andor is one of, if not the best Star Wars properties ever. I think it's leagues above so much of Star Wars.
I agree, and I was not convinced by the first couple of episodes at all.
No,
it took a while.
But those episodes are so needed to appreciate.
Do you know what? And this is a bit of a tangent, right?
Yes.
And we are talking about Andor.
Yes.
Here. I think not the entire, but a lot of the subplot with the guy, I can't think of his name. You know, the kind of guy who drinks milk with his mother, or eats his cereal with his mother.
Yes.
I don't know whether that was necessary, and I'm sure that will come in season 2 more.
I don't mind it as much.
I remember watching it going, there might be one too many scenes of this guy sitting with his mother eating cereal.
Yeah.
You might not have needed that one.
I agree with that, but I also do think in the same way that you feel the first episodes are slow, I'm like, but those episodes made me appreciate when shit got real in the later episodes. I think we're going to appreciate all the scenes we had with him in the second season.
Yeah, I think he will be a stronger character.
Anyway, Andor is incredible. I think we're both.
Yeah. Sorry, back to Rogue One.
Rogue One, I love Rogue One. It's all the performances are great. It's for what it is, which is a great concept as well, by the way. It's the heist of the plans that gets you to the start of Episode 4. Cool, great, love it. The team is wonderful. I love K2SO and Cassian Andor. I love their dynamic, but I just love Alan Tudyk is one of my favorite actors and voice actors. He's just phenomenal, but he does K2SO so well. But they've got a fun little crew. They touch on Force stuff slightly. You get the power of the Death Star, even just its test out and all that kind of stuff. The tragedy of everyone dying at the end. You get the Darth Vader scene. It's just a really, 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 really good film. Now, next, number 2.
I think we might be the same here. Who knows?
Number 2 for me is Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, we're switched.
We're switched, yeah. Now, I know a lot of people will say Empire is the best Star Wars film, and I don't entirely disagree. I just think for me, I put New Hope as 1 and Empire as 2. It's essentially neck and neck. It's essentially joint first, but I put it down here because I love it. It's great. Empire is wonderful. I do very much enjoy it. It is one of those ones, though, again, that like when I think about it in my head, even though I saw it recently, I'm like, the big thing I remember is Lando and the big fight, I am your father, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's iconic. It's incredibly iconic. But not much of the rest of the film stands out to me. And again, not in a bad way. It's all very well made. Like, the Tauntaun stuff, like the Snowy Planet, Hoth. Those battle scenes are all wonderful. I just feel that I don't know. The big thing of it is just that maybe the last 30 minutes, and then I don't know if the rest of the film hits as hard for me.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of feel the same way about A New Hope a little bit.
Interesting. Okay.
Again, there's not much in here. It is kind of neck and neck in a lot of ways, but I think
we'll both say my number 2 is Empire. Your number 2 is New Hope. My number 1 is A New Hope. Your number 1 is Empire.
Yeah.
So we can just talk about both films basically now. Yeah.
So, I think A New Hope is so great up until, like, I think when they rescue Leia off the ship and Obi-Wan gets killed.
Yeah.
For me, there's a slight lull there.
There is a little lag, but I think it needs that little lag to then get into the air assault kind of thing.
It kind of stays there. I remember. So okay, I've seen this film so many times.
Yes,
I know
fair.
backwards,
Yeah.
But I remember when I really noticed it, when I really picked up on it, is when we went to see it with a live orchestra.
Oh, very cool.
And I was so looking forward to it. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. After this scene, I remember going, this is kind of boring. A little bit.
Okay.
Just as they're kind of like, they regroup and like they're planning their Death Star attack.
Yeah.
It's like, For me, Empire, there was none of that.
Yeah.
And I know Empire, like a lot of people say it's the best Star Wars movie of all time because it's dark and great. I'm doing air quotes. It is, but that's not really
it's not
why.
It's not why it's good.
I think it's just in terms of, okay, it does create a lot more drama to have these moments. Yeah. But I think just the script wise, the look of the film, everything.
Yeah,
is really. I don't think
gorgeous.
It's dated at all. Like I look at New Hope, you can see obviously it was low budget even for the time, was it?
Yeah, right? Definitely. Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff there. Empire to me, look at it now, like aside from a couple of shots.
The Cloud City, even the original version, is just purely from like matte paintings and backgrounds and everything. Gorgeous. And then for me, New Hope, I think is top for me because it hits. You get introduced to a world and an entire new world and a concept, and it does everything so well. I follow it, from you get your Luke, you get the droids, you get the horrific deaths of the aunt and uncle, you get the bar, you get the song in the bar.
See, I love all that stuff. The bar, all the aliens,
but then also you get Han Solo, you get the ship. It's such a that entire you're introduced to your couple of main characters, whatever. They find a bar. They find another person who has a ship. That's like the Star Wars DNA. I think that's so integral to what Star Wars is. You round up a group, but it's also that's going. What that is Treasure Island. It's a pirate. Really. It's an adventure. You get a few characters. You round up characters. One character is transport, and then you have your team. It's a game of D&D. It's a hero's journey, and it's just done so well. And again, you got your big lightsaber fights, but the big lightsaber fight is the middle when Obi-Wan dies, and then the finale is there's no lightsabers because that wasn't part of the language of it. That was just your big force moment is just that he hits a bomb into a little hole and the thing blows up. It's restrained because it doesn't know that it's Star Wars yet.
Well, because it doesn't. Yeah, Lucas had no idea that this was going to take off, at all. And obviously it's left open for more. Yeah, they keep Darth Vader alive, spinning off in his TIE fighter.
He spins off.
And then the medal scene, they don't give Chewie a medal.
Yeah, they're bam, medals done. And we're sorted.
And they give him one to make up for it. I like that in the Rise of Skywalker. Come on, even you must admit that was nice where they give Chewie.
That felt more like a meme.
I know.
I felt more like a meme to me. Sorry, that felt more like a meme to me than anything else. I know, but also I don't discount it having an emotional reaction for yourself.
See, I love Chewbacca. He's the greatest thing of all time. So
so I think is that our both our thoughts on Empire and New Hope?
Yeah, I don't think there's any need to. I think we've covered it. I'm
so
sure after we finish up, we're going to be like, I forgot to say, but I think we pretty much in as little time as possible. And we spent a while at it, but I think we
so there you have it. That is the roll credits, Mark and Sean ranking of all 11 Star Wars films. Mark, I like how many we matched up on, and also the ones that we seem to not match up on. We just swapped the places. Apparently,
I know, it's kind of crazy. But it was I think we matched up more than I expected.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Well, we'll compare. I'll send you my list afterwards, and we can compare exactly where it was. So that's it. Look, if you enjoyed listening to us, two Star Wars nerds ramble on about our likes and dislikes for these films and this iconic film trilogy, do be sure to let us know. Mark, did you have a nice time ranking Star Wars?
I did. I have to say, it was great.
It was a good old time. And that is it. That brings us to the end of this week's Roll Credits episode. If you like, please be sure to give us a subscribe, give us a rating on wherever you're listening. You can follow us on SoundCloud, on YouTube, or the Roll Credits podcast. I can be found on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and wherever else you're having yourself as at the Sonic Screw. And Mark, where can people find you?
At Roar Machine on Twitter. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all he wants. We will be back next time with another bunch of chats and reviews and news and
I'm trying to think
whatever we're doing.
We should probably review something next time.
We will. We'll go see a thing and we'll review it.
What's coming up? We'll have to. It might be a surprise one, folks. Is there any major movies coming out next week? 2 weeks?
Well, look, we'll get cracking. We'll have an Algander. And we'll come back to you next episode.
And you know what? If we can't, we'll just do another ranking.
Hey!
Maybe all of the Marvel movies. Maybe we'll spend 3 hours on it.
Oh, good Lord. Right, okay. Bye, everyone. Say goodbye, Mark. Take care.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.